All right, for more, let's bring in Brian Kilmeade, Fox & Friends co-host and host of One Nation with Brian Kilmeade and the Brian Kilmeade radio show. It's like Brian Kilmeade every show. I mean, this is amazing.
But for the first time ever, number one, I'm on with you. Number two is you actually did 3 hours of radio right after me for Jimmy Failure.
I did, and I can't believe that you do 3 hours of TV and then 3 hours of radio and then do a weekend show at 8 p.m.
Right.
Listen, you should be as great as I am, frankly.
Well, put it this way, you have more kids, so I caught up to you. But
that's probably true.
And also, you did not stay up late night to watch Jimmy Kimmel, but you did watch it back.
I did watch it back because I was probably watching Gutfeld and not Kimmel, just so you know.
Like the rest of the country.
But let's talk about Biden. The fastest growing economy. He's touting this amazing economy when most Americans, per Edward Lawrence's report, say, listen, the inflation is the number one issue. Gas prices, $4.97 a gallon. You can't afford groceries at the grocery store. Borders out of control. Crime is out of control. Joe Biden's out of touch, isn't he?
Or he just doesn't have the answers.
Maybe.
Because of inflation and gas prices. We've never seen this before. I mean, $5 a gas, I thought it might have been in France. That's, it is higher in Europe. We get that. A couple of things that he said that really stood out. Number one, he wants to raise taxes. He said, yeah, if you want us to get us out of this, I need to do something about daycare and healthcare costs. Daycare and healthcare costs. So he's looking to change the corporate tax rate. He's looking to up taxes on successful people. When if you look at the game plan to come out of an inflationary cycle, it is not raising taxes. In fact, President Reagan cut expenses, he cut the spending, and he actually cut taxes and propelled the government at the risk of raising the deficit. Instead, he's pretending like he's cutting the deficit. But he just stopped printing money.
He allowed Volcker to raise rates, right? But what's interesting on that point is they're saying, listen, we can't deal with gas prices. We can't deal with inflation, Brian. What we want to do is make you more reliant on the federal government. We want to provide you health care, child care. We want to help with your medicine. So we don't want you to be a free man or woman in America. We want you dependent on the government. This is all part of the plan.
Could be. I think you're giving him too much credit. I'm not sure there is a plan. I mean, because we would have heard something about it. It would have leaked out. Because if you look at what Sperling has said, if you look at what others have said there on the Economic Council, we have not gotten a coherent plan. In fact, every day, I think today we opened up at $4.97 a gallon. By the end of the day, maybe now it's at $5 on average a gallon. It is something that's out of control. The other thing is inflationary, showing no signs of curtailing to the point where the Secretary of Treasury had to come out and apologize. What I also thought was telling is the president's campaigning. He came out yesterday, turned towards the audience, and said, let's make gun rights an election issue. Excuse me. There was a piece of gun legislation that just passed the House. And now in the Senate, there's a heated bipartisan negotiations that both sides are trying not to play politics with that could produce some type of results. But instead, he wheels himself toward the audience and says, vote on gun rights because this is not your father's NRA. Listen, if there's anything consistent with the Republican Party over the last 50, 60, 70, 80 years, they're pretty strong on the Second Amendment, always.
But I find it's interesting because these guys have gone so far left, and I think it's more sinister than you're giving them credit for. I think they want more people reliant on the government. But I think they voted for Joe Biden as they saw him in the basement. He's kind of a grandpa. He is the uniter, old Joe. And he's gotten in office, and he has gone far left. This is not what the American people voted for. That's why I think his poll numbers are under 40%. I think some of the worst polling in modern times.
I don't remember it. I know they said that during when the Korean War first started, that Truman dropped to 28%. Now he's listed as a near-great president. I don't see the same trajectory as President Biden. But if you see what happened, what people, I think, are not fully understanding is last week we saw the first implosion inside 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. 24 African Americans leaving because they felt they were getting nowhere. A fracture between the young and those people who have been around Joe Biden forever. And at the same time, you see his numbers cratering and a push among his family to get Joe Biden out more. I think that Joe Biden, that's the first time we saw Joe Biden make his own call. His call to walk by Bret Baier, walk by George Stephanopoulos, walk by Bill Muir, and go right to Jimmy Kimmel. That is not what you do. Obama added that. Clinton added that. W never did that. Trump could do that, but he knew he had to do real interviews. That's why it worked. It doesn't work when you only do entertainment interviews.
But if that's the only kind of interview you can do, because he can't answer the tough questions, which I don't think he can. I think he agrees with the policy, but can't actually navigate the tough questions and put 4 sentences together and respond to Bret Baier in an interview setting, which is a problem for him. But I want to move to this because after a deranged gunman tried to kill Justice Kavanaugh yesterday, the president warned about a mini revolution if the high court reverses Roe v. Wade. Take a listen to this.
No.
It's clear that if, in fact, the decision comes down the way it does and these states impose the limitations they're talking about, it's going to cause a mini revolution.
This is supposed to be the great uniter, Brian. I mean, a guy that's talking about a mini revolution is almost saying, hey, I'm okay with the violence. I'm okay with you guys not just protesting, but using violence in regard to your dislike for a potential overruling of Roe v. Wade. Instead of saying, you know what, violence has no part in our society. We are not going to tolerate it, whether it's left or right. We are going to condemn it. We're going to prosecute it. You'll go to jail if you do that. But he's like, oh, we might have a mini revolution.
Well, I think the fact that he wasn't walked back succinctly is another example of the new communications department. They might stop walking him back and just letting his statements lay. Because if anything really needed further definition to play out, it was those words. Mini revolution, at the time, a guy armed to the teeth in a very ritzy area of Maryland, I understand, who had to turn himself in order to get arrested. Oddly, one of the big stories I don't get is at 105, the marshals spot him. He's not arrested till 155. In between, he calls 911 on himself. This guy was ready with zip ties, with knives, with guns, with foam for his shoes not to make any noise. And then he said, I wanted to do something to help. The result would have been the assassination of Kavanaugh, God forbid that didn't happen, thankfully, would have resulted in Joe Biden picking the next Supreme Court justice, and that would have changed the country.
But do you remember all of the conversation about January 6th, and people came in with zip ties? Zip ties were a big deal. Now, I don't believe there were any guns that were brought into the Capitol.
Didn't they just zip tie that judge in Wisconsin?
They did. And so that there's not more outrage on the left saying, you know what? Again, this is unacceptable. And instead of talking to Jimmy Kimmel about guns and what happened at Justice Kavanaugh's house, they were completely silent. Joe Biden didn't actually make a statement on this issue. He didn't put out a press release on White House letterhead. He put out a quote for the press to print. But this is the lowest form of a comment that you can give in regard to a Supreme Court justice who was threatened by a gunman.
So, Sean, the one thing I thought would happen is that we be arguing about issues with this president and say, well, I don't agree here, I do agree here. They don't get the other stuff right. A guy that's been around for 45 years with a staff that's been around him for about the same time, they don't do D-Day. They don't do commemorations. They don't quickly answer any emergency situation unless, of course, it's something that plays for their political benefit. So they don't do the easy stuff right, which would have been that right there. Justice Kavanaugh, for now on, I've asked the Attorney General to push back the protesters who waited all of 1 hour before they got their bass drum and their purple hair and their extra nose rings and went over to his sidewalk and protested, and we found out he was on the inside. So there was nothing when he could have been somewhat heroic. I mean, put it this way. You look at Harold Ford, you look at Henry Cuellar, you look at what James Carville said. These are Democrats that have stood up and are starting to notice that they're not recognizing this party and they can't count on this president. They are making statements that are like, hey, don't lump me in with this.
Even Bill Maher. I mean, traditional liberals are pushing back against this radical leftism. Brian, listen, thanks for joining me. You are, besides Bill Hammer, the most handsome man at Fox News and the hardest working man at Fox News.
You said beside Bill or along with?
Bill's more handsome.
Do you mean along with?
No.
Or, you sure? I can't wait to get this transcript back because I think you said along with. And, you know, Henry can't hear you. He doesn't get the business channel in the office.
But he should. All right, thank you, Brian Kilmeade. Catch Brian weekdays on Fox and Friends and the Brian Kilmeade radio show. And One Nation with Brian Kilmeade Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern on Fox News. He is amazing.